Welcome to another episode. I'm Reverend Mike, and I'm here to answer your questions about religion. This is going to be a fun topic, I think. Normally, I don't have to do a lot of research for my videos. I do some to, double or triple check myself. This one, I did a lot of research for, just to make sure I was covering all my bases. The topic for today is the flat earth biblical? Some people believe the world is flat. And there are people on YouTube that attempt to debunk flat earthers. Some with science, some with humor and sarcasm. But I'm not going to talk about science. While I do have a lot of interest in science, and I am well versed in science, not a scientist, but I am a reverend. I'm going to discuss the biblical proofs for and against flat earth. When in doubt, as always, you must look at the original languages, and that's what I've done. I've skipped over any verses that were part of a dream or a vision, since that's not relative to literal truth. Let's start with the firmament. Many interpret this as a dome that somehow allows meteorites in, but keeps the atmosphere from leaking out. I have bad news for dome believers, but the word in the original Hebrew is rakia. The confusion comes from its root, raka, which means to stretch, spread, or stamp, like you would with thin sheets of metal. But rakia means an expanse or visible arc of sky. No other words are used to describe the firmament, just rakia. It does not mean dome. It means sky. The same word is later translated as heaven. While this word can mean the abode of God, it more often refers to anything above, from the skies where the birds fly to space where the stars are. In this case, the expanse of sky separated the waters of the earth from the waters found in the clouds that fall as rain. This is the separation of waters talked about in the Bible. It's not a dome separating waters in the vastness of space from the waters on earth. Although I guess you could interpret it as the sky separating the water from of the earth from the water in space, in other words, comets. But it's fairly clear, at least to me, that it's talking about atmospheric water. Most flat earth models have stars embedded in the dome, with the sun and moon somehow suspended over the earth. This model contradicts itself. The firmament that contains the stars contains the sun and moon. This places them in the same layer of creation, outer space, not embedded in a dome. In other parts of the Bible, you have the word canopy. Isaiah 40:20, he sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and his people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens, the sky, like a canopy, and spreads them out like a tent to live in. This clearly states the sky is like a canopy. It isn't saying that it's literally a canopy or a dome. We'll have to look elsewhere for references to a dome. How about Job 37:18? Can you join him in spreading out the skies, hard as a mirror of cast bronze? This sounds pretty convincing, for a dome until you look at the more accurate translation in the King James. Hast thou with him spread out the sky, which is strong, and as a molten looking glass. The word here translated as strong, and previously in another version of the translation as hard, is a Hebrew word, kazak, which means bold or mighty. Not hard as endurable. The poetic imagery of Job of a molten looking glass or mirror of cast bronze is referring to the sky appearing like a mirror, not literally being bronze. The word molten is yatsak, meaning to pour out. This is a poetic way to say that the overcast sky was ready to pour with rain, but I can see how such a difficult translation might confuse some. Is the earth stationary? 1 Chronicles 16:30. Tremble before him, all the earth. The world is firmly established. It cannot be moved. Here the word moved is maut in the original Hebrew. It means to waver, to slip of course, to fall into decay. It does not mean immobile. It means permanent. Psalms 104:5. He set the earth on its foundations. It can never be moved. This falls apart in the King James Version. It's better translated that the earth will never be removed. That's a big difference. The foundations of the earth. 1 Samuel 2:8. For the foundations of the earth are the Lord's. On them he has set the world. This is one of the verses used to support flat earth, but it doesn't do so. In the King James Version, foundations is more properly translated pillars. I hope no one is taking this verse literally. The world is not balanced on some pillars. That would be ridiculous. First earthquake and the whole thing would topple over. Psalms 75:3 also references pillars. They are clearly metaphorical in that verse. Corners of the earth. Could this be support for flat earth? Isaiah 11:12. He will assemble the scattered people of Judah from the 4 quarters of the earth. This is sometimes translated as 4 corners. I cannot fathom why this is used to support flat earth theory, since almost every flat earth map is round like a disc. They insist that these descriptions in the Bible are literal, and yet their map does not have corners. Besides, when it talks about the 4 corners, it's actually referring to the 4 cardinal directions, not literal corners. So it's referring to north, south, east, and west. The ends of the earth. Job 28:24. For he views the ends of the earth and sees everything under the heavens. And Job 37:3. He unleashes his lightning beneath the whole heaven and sends it to the ends of the earth. The phrase, to the ends of the earth, is now and has always been just a saying. It's a colloquialism. It's not a literal statement. If someone says they're going to hunt you down to the ends of the earth, I'm afraid they're not talking about tracking you all the way to Antarctica. It's a figurative thing. So, now that we've gone over all the verses that do not support flat earth, now the verses that do support flat earth. There aren't any. Sorry. I hate to burst your bubble for those of you who believe it. There aren't any. There just isn't. If you want to believe that the earth is flat, you have that right. But the Bible isn't going to help support that belief. Neither are the religious texts from any other religion that I'm familiar with. All of the supposed flat earth models in religious texts are figurative. They're metaphorical. They're not meant to be taken literal. I'm sorry if you're disappointed by that. But there are no religious texts that support that belief. And frankly, science doesn't support it either. As a matter of fact, just simple observation, the flat earth model, if you're in Australia looking south, if you're in South America looking south, if you're in South Africa looking south, on the flat earth model, you should be looking in different directions. But if people in those countries looking south at night look to the stars, they will see the same constellations. If the earth was flat, they would see different constellations. They're different directions. The only way they could see the same constellations at the same time of year is if the earth was spherical. That's all there is to it. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode. Thank you for watching this video. Please click like or dislike. Subscribe if you want to see more. Feel free to comment or ask questions below. Your questions might even be the subject of future videos. Be good to each other. We're all in this together.